So welcome to your yin practice. We are going to start with a mindfulness meditation. And this is really just to bring or heighten our awareness, bring us into this present moment before we move into the postures. So if you could come to a comfortable seat, if you're not already, and this is where you could use a cushion or a blanket underneath you, just elevating the hips a little bit so you feel a little bit more comfortable. And then just allow your palms to rest into your knees and just lengthen up through your spine. And just soften your eyes. And just bring your attention to the very fact that you're breathing. And just become aware of the movement of your breath as it comes into your body and as it leaves your body. So without manipulating your breath in any way or trying to change it, just simply being aware of your breath and the feelings associated with breathing. And you might observe that your breath is all the way down into your stomach. And just noticing how the abdomen expands and contracts with that breath. Again, not trying to change anything, not trying to do anything, just simply being aware of this breath. And also being aware that your mind is going to wander. And this is going to be true when we come into the practice as well. And this is why I'm starting with this, just to show you that you can focus on your breath, but know that your mind may wander off. And that's okay. With yin, you have the option to follow those thoughts. See where they bring you. But you also have a choice not to follow your thoughts, but to bring your awareness back to your breath. It's really about being conscious, and it's that moment that you realize you have taken your awareness off your breath. That's the little celebration that you need. So your breath may help you, bring you to a greater sense of relaxed awareness. Your thoughts may not. But it is your choice during this practice. And as you're here, becoming aware still of your breath, become aware now of your body. And when we are in the poses, you're going to notice your body a lot more, because you're going to be working to your edge. But for now, just noticing your physical being. Just getting a whole sense for your body as you sit here. Noticing how you feel physically from the crown of your head down to the tips of your toes. Just becoming aware of all sensations in the body. And the point of our practice is to have an awareness without judgment. So just being aware of whatever you are experiencing now, and when we move into the poses, what are you experiencing when you're in the poses? There is no right, there is no wrong. We're simply looking to heighten an awareness and to be fully present. And now as you sit here, once again, just broaden your awareness, maybe to bring in to your thoughts as they move through your mind. And again, it's important to know that your thoughts are going to come and they're going to go just like your breath. So be aware of them now. Just let the thinking process itself be the focus of your awareness. But instead of becoming involved in each thought as it arises, getting caught up in the content, just see each thought as a thought. And just let them come and go. So you can witness them, observe them. Knowing that you can come back to the breath as an anchor. You can come back to the sensations of your body as an anchor. And as you're seated here, maybe just using your hands as an anchor as well, just feeling them gently as they rest into your knees. Because thoughts can have any form and any content, and sometimes they can be neutral and sometimes highly charged. So that's where you may need to back away from them. Or maybe you feel ready to delve deeper into what is arising, knowing that depending on the poses we're in, different thoughts, different feelings may arise. But let it, the whole practice being about noticing and being present. And you're going to notice sounds around you. And perhaps you have music playing, or perhaps you're just hearing the sounds in your house or sounds outside. And again, just allow them to be in the background. Noticing them, knowing that a sound is going to come and a sound is going to go. So keeping this awareness that we have started to cultivate now, let's come into our first pose for this practice. So we're going to come into butterfly pose. So just to remind you, butterfly is where you bring the soles of the feet together. And they can be as close or as far away from you as they need to be. I'm just going to take my glasses off. So notice how close or how far. Because in Baddha Konasana we would often bring them right in, but maybe that's not going to work for you in a yin practice. So maybe starting with them slightly further away. Then we're going to round into the lower back and we're going to ease our way forward. So we start to bring a little bit of sensation into the lower back. And as we continue to move forward, we're going to feel even more sensation in the lower back. So moving to the point where you feel about a 7 out of 10 in sensation. So moving slowly into a pose so that you're finding your edge. And that is going to look different for everybody and for every pose. So thinking of this practice more as a functional alignment rather than an aesthetic alignment. So it's not about how a pose looks, which we are more concerned with in a yang practice. I tend to give alignment cues, and we focus on our alignment much more. With this practice, you need to work out what alignment works best for you. And we're all different. We all have different body shapes. We all carry injuries in different areas or tightnesses. We may even have different bone structure. And for some poses, it may not be physically possible for us to go deeper. So this is our starting pose, just to get into the hips and the lower back, which is our target area here. So as you're rounding forward, you may be just pausing where you are. You may be continuing to move, sort of stopping and then starting and noticing how the pose feels. And you can always bring your fingers or hands further out if you're coming closer forward, or just holding onto your feet. Allow your head to hang if you like, and throughout the practice you may like to close your eyes, which is again quite nice to internalize. And yin is a practice of going within. The yang practice is about our outer world, and our yin is about our inner world. Connecting to the more feeling part versus connecting to the more structured physical part of ourselves. And it's not a restorative practice. We're not supposed to feel completely at ease when we're in a pose. And that's important to remember, because certain poses are going to feel more uncomfortable than others. We should never feel any pain, and there should never be intense discomfort. But there is a level of discomfort that we're working with, and that's all about finding your edge and finding and knowing where to move to that edge. Adjusting if it comes too intense, or moving deeper into the pose if it eases off. So slowly let's release from this. So round the back to come back out. So sort of a rolling up. Bring your hands behind you for support, and just bring the knees up and just move them from side to side. So that's just a nice gentle release. So when we come out of our yin poses, knowing that we feel much more intense, there's a delicate feeling. We feel fragile, we feel vulnerable. And then we release out of it with either pose like this, where we're just moving, or we come into our rebound pose to fully rest. So just release that out. You might notice most sensation has gone. And then let's come into straddle, or it's called dragonfly in yin. So bringing your legs into a wide leg position. So again, just notice how wide you want them to be. You don't need to flex your muscles. Again, we want to relax our muscles in our yin practice. So just allow the muscles to be nice and relaxed. Feet can be relaxed too. They don't need to be pointed to the ceiling. And then turning towards your left leg, starting that twisting sensation, and then start to round as you move down towards that leg. So again, just noticing once you turn how it feels along this whole right side. You know, the fascia that we're working with wraps around the whole body. So how does it feel when you turn and you twist? Because it's connecting your lower back and your hips. And it may be enough to stay here, or you may need more sensation and start to make your way down towards that leg. This is where you could have a cushion and perhaps place it underneath you here on top of your thigh for a little bit of support. But it's not necessary. You can use your hands, but try not to hold yourself up too much with your arms. Again, maybe closing your eyes as you soften down. So we're looking to find ease in our poses. So learning that when we reach our edge, when we reach our level of discomfort, how can we bring more ease? Do we come into our breath? Do we use our exhale to help find a little bit of release and calmness? Do we acknowledge what we're feeling? Do we witness our thoughts? Do we just stay present? Feeling everything and not labeling it as good or as bad. So as you know, we're going to be holding poses for 3 to 5 minutes. And really that is the challenge when it comes to this practice. It's staying longer in a practice and what arises when you just pause and stay still. When there's none of the distractions of moving. From here, let's release up nice and slowly. Come back through center, and again, you might want to bend those knees and just windscreen wipe them from side to side. Even sort of turning the hips a little bit so that you just release sensation, bringing the legs back out again, turning to the opposite leg, and straight away starting to round and see if you need to go forward and how much you need to go forward to come to your edge. And remembering that each side is going to feel different, and the more you practice, the more you get to understand this. Understand your own body. And with this practice, we're looking to even out, to rebalance, to bring greater mobility physically by sort of rehydrating the fascia, making it a little bit more elastic, because it is a more plastic membrane that wraps around the whole body. And that's why we ease slowly into the poses. It's not like a muscle that likes that quick movement and likes to build heat through movement. Our fascia is more plastic. It likes a slow amount of movement, and just like you're putting a little bit of pressure, just gently kind of squeezing and squeezing. Imagine you're sort of squeezing a sponge, and then you want to, when you come out of the pose, you're gently letting go of that sponge and allowing all the fluids to rehydrate it and refresh it and make it nice and rehydrated. And that's where we can feel that sort of sensation when we come out of the pose. That's when the beauty and the joy of this practice happens, is when we come out of the pose. The challenge is when we're in the pose itself. I'm going to stay here for another minute. And let's slowly rise back up. And again, just taking your time, maybe again bending the knees and windscreen wiping them from side to side. And then bringing the legs back out. Let's just finish this series of dragonfly, and we're now going to come forward. So again, you can bring your hands in front of you. You could also have your hands on a blanket or a cushion. But again, just rounding into that lower back and easing your way towards the center here. And maybe just see how low you need to go. You may be sitting up nice and tall. So again, it's not about replicating what I'm looking like. You have to tune in to how you feel in this pose, what your body needs in this pose. Equally, you could be completely flat against the floor. So it doesn't really matter what it looks like, it's how it feels. So try and relax your shoulders as you're here, as we want to let go of tension in the body. As we work within soft tissue, fascia. Just another minute here. And now let's slowly rise up. And again, be slow with your movements when you come up. And from here, let's come into a wide leg child's pose. So coming into a resting or rebound pose, as they call that in yin. So knees can go nice and wide, toes touching, and just allowing yourself to fully rest down onto the mat now. So you can have the blanket underneath you if you like. You could turn your head to one side or just rest the forehead down. Wherever position you've chosen to take here for your child's pose, just make it as comfortable as possible. So what does that feel like for you? So child's pose, when you think about it, it's a very nurturing pose, grounding, safe, protected. You know, we're curled in on ourselves. So that's what we're looking to feel here. After we come out of the pose, then we come into this sort of more restful pose and just allow ourselves to process the previous poses. So the rebound pose is really important in a yin. We don't go from one pose to another pose without taking in all that needs to be absorbed in the rebound pose. And this is when you can notice different sensations in the body from the previous pose, or just even if you're not noticing anything, knowing that it is all happening and your body is just settling back, adjusting, rebounding, if you like. So maybe taking a few deep breaths here and feel that exhale allow you to sink a little deeper down. And then from here, we're going to come into our next pose, which is going to be Sphinx. So you're going to come forward onto your tummies and just lengthening your legs back and just taking your time, because coming into a back bend after the forward folds, you know, we want to ease our way up. Now, it's obviously not going to be a big back bend, but noticing that when you lie down, it already feels intense. Or it can do. So if you're feeling a lot of sensation already, just stay lower. Otherwise, rising up a little bit higher and coming into Sphinx. So you could start with your elbows underneath your shoulders and see how that feels. Or you may widen them. So adjust the arms as you need to, or you could bring your hands together. Ideally, we want to relax our shoulders so that we're not pushing into our arms so much as allowing our body to feel a bit of support here. So you could allow the arms to come forward. Perhaps that feels a bit better. Bringing them further in is going to lift you up a little bit higher. If those of you who are more open again, you might come into seal. But starting with your Sphinx and noticing now we're opening up. Maybe you're looking forward with your gaze, or maybe you're allowing your head to hang. And if you're tight at the back of your neck, just allowing the head to hang down can feel quite nice. Just bringing a little bit of stretch there. Equally, you may want to turn your head to one side and then to the other. So what feels good for you with your head? I'm trying to not bring too much into your shoulders. So fully relaxing your legs, trying to feel like you are being supported as you lift up. And noticing sensations. So obviously targeting the lower back, the whole spine as we open up. Now you can stay like this, and please do, if this is where you're feeling enough sensation and you're at your edge already, For those of you who have more space in your spine and you're used to deeper back bends, either from opening up the body or just physically because you have more space in your spine, you're going to come into seal. So then you're going to start to straighten your arms. Now again, if you bring your hands wider, you're going to feel less high. You can also hang into those arms. So if you imagine that you're being propped up, so you can see the difference if I push myself like this versus hang myself into my arms. So there's a support there that then allows me to relax a little bit deeper. Now, if you've come up and you feel like you're feeling too much, you're going to lower back down and know that that's okay. You just come up a little bit too quickly. Otherwise, you may be feeling okay here. You may be feeling this is your edge. So you're going to stay here. And we've got another couple of minutes, about a minute and a half. So noticing what arises for you and knowing that at any point, particularly in the back bends, which can be intense for people, to come out whenever you need to. So if that means that you're going to come all the way back down onto your tummy and stay there and just turn your head, you're going to do that. If it means you're going to push up even higher, bring your hands further in, you're going to do that. We don't want to overstretch, we don't want to overstrain, so we always need to, again, be true to what we feel. It's not about reaching a particular position in the pose or looking a particular way. So energetically, this is going to feel quite different to a forward fold. We're opening up. This is as high as we go of a back bend in our practice. Okay, just another few moments wherever you are. And let's all release down. So wherever you are, very slowly, again with care, with caution, allow yourself to come all the way back down onto your mat. So you are lying back down. You can rest your forehead or turn your head one way. And just notice again sensations when you come out of the pose. So it's normal to feel that throbbing or pulsing or a gushing sensation around the lower back. If you imagine we are putting pressure, we're stopping the flow into that area, and then we release it and the flow gushes back in. So that sort of squeezing of a sponge sort of visualization. So wait here a little bit longer. Wait for the sensations to mostly ease off. Learning to be patient, to take our time. And then from here, we're going to slowly make our way back into a child's pose. So we're going to be re-rounding again. So taking yourself back very carefully and ease your way back, and choosing whether you want, again, the wide legs or if you prefer the knees together, but sinking the weight back towards the heels and then resting a forehead down, finding that place of support, that feeling of support, and softening all the way down into it. And we're going to take a minute or so here. So fully allow yourself to rest, to release. And then very slowly rising back up onto hands and knees. So from here we're going to come into our dragon. So dragons are a little more fiery. We're going to step our right foot forward. So this is where, if you have a blanket, you might want to put it underneath that left knee. You can send that left knee back a little bit, or keep it where it was, more underneath your hip. So you can start with your hands either side of your foot here, or you might want to come into inside dragon. This would be where I normally come into it, where both hands are on the inside of the front foot. So this would be like a lizard pose. Now you can stay here again if you're feeling sensation, or just like you would in a lizard, you could either walk your hands a little further out to the side, or you're going to start to ease your way down, or you may ease down on one arm, keeping the other arm straight. So noticing again how much sensation you need here in this pose. And for a lot of people, this is quite an intense one. It's quite a fiery one when we're dealing with the hips. So if that's the case for you, you may be a lot more upright and you're not going to be coming down at all. If you're more open in your hips, which you might be from all your yoga practice, just again, honor the intensity if you're feeling it, and then ease your way into the fire. Not too intense. You don't want to get burned, but 7 out of 10, finding your edge. And we're going to stay here for a minute or so more. So knowing, again, if you have calmed down too quickly, ease yourself back up. If you need more intensity, lower yourself down. Or even the very fact that we're holding for longer, the intensity is going to build. And the difference being when we're in a yang pose, we can go deeper because we're not holding for very long. We're maybe holding for a couple of breaths and then we're moving on. So with the difference in the yin, and you're holding for 3, sometimes 5 minutes, that's going to feel very different, right? Okay, we're going to come out of this side. So walk your hands in. We're going to release it in a down dog. So lifting that left leg and then stepping the right leg back. So you come into a downward facing dog. Just release most of the sensation out in your down dog. And notice the difference between the left and the right side while you're here. You can certainly feel the space in my right hip there. And then coming back down onto hands and knees, let's just pop again into a child's pose for a moment, and then we'll do the other side. Easing your way back, releasing all the way down. And if it's too intense again to have that wide leg child's pose, just keeping the legs closer together, even using your cushion or your blanket for that little bit more support. From here, let's rise back up and let's come into the left side. So leaning to the right, stepping your left foot forward. And again, noticing if you stay here, if you want to bring your right knee back a little bit more. So how much of an angle do you need here to get into the hip? And again, maybe just staying with hands either side, or maybe coming into inside dragon and bringing both hands to the inside. Of course, you can move your foot a little out to the left. You can move your hands a little out to the right. So what works for you here? And again, noticing if you need more sensation, or are you feeling enough where you are? And you're possibly going to notice the difference between the left and the right side. I think particularly in this set of poses, the dragons, it becomes clearer where you might be holding on to, or it's not that you're holding on, you may just feel a big difference between your left and your right hip. So our left side being related to our feminine, and our right side related to our masculine, energetically. And our hips are where we hold a lot of baggage emotionally. A lot of emotions are connected with our hips. And if you ever do a lot of hip work and you notice you come out of it, you can feel quite intense emotionally. So we're looking to release some of that. Obviously we're working physically, but we're working on many different layers here. So we've got a minute more here. Please come out of it if it's too intense. Please go deeper if it's not. So find your edge. And edge may be moving. You may go deeper, you may pull back. You may stay where you are, and just over time, it's changing. So always remembering, just because you've picked a particular place to be in the pose, it's not where you have to stay. You can adjust, you can try using props, you can move. Okay, from here we're gonna slowly make our way back out. And again, we're gonna come into a downward facing dog to release that. So you're gonna step the knee back and then lift both hips up. And again, pedal it out, move your hips, just noticing how you feel your left side and your right side. And then when most sensation is eased off, make your way back to a seated position. So you're going to take your legs out in front of you, and from here we're going to come into Catapillar Pose. So Caterpillar, we're kind of folding back in, we're cocooning ourselves back in. So again, you could be sitting on a blanket or a cushion here and relaxing your legs. We're going to roll the body forward and in. So again, if you want that cushion or that blanket, you can have it folded and have it nice tucked in here, providing a little bit of softness, a little bit of support. So easing your way forward, slowly folding within. So again, targeting the lower back here, so feeling all of this start to lengthen as we make our way closer towards our legs, or maybe we're holding where we are. Don't compare where you are to where you would be in a yang practice, very different. I'm going to move the blanket aside. Almost imagining like you're just melting down towards the legs. In a much more quietening pose. Energetically, we're folding within. So compared to the Sphinx, where we're opening up our hearts and lower back, compared to dragons, where we're getting into the fiery hips. Here we're softening, preparing to come to sleep. From here, let's very slowly start to round and uncurl and make our way onto our backs. So lying on your back, just hug your knees in. So think of this like a child's pose on your back. So you could have the knees a little bit wider, you could hold them together. So not even moving, just hugging the knees in towards you and just staying like this. Allowing your shoulders to relax. Feeling the weight of the body rest into the mat beneath you. And then if you wanted to, you could gently start to move from side to side. If you want to just gently, or even moving in circles, massage out the lower back. But I think it's nice actually just having the knees hugged in towards you. And if you have your hands clasped around your legs, you can sort of let go, and there's again a feeling of being hugged, of being supported, so you can just release here. There isn't too much effort to hug in. You can let go, surrender. So from here we can transition now into the final resting pose of Shavasana. Extending your legs away and maybe using that bolster underneath your knees or your thighs is quite nice. Taking your blanket and maybe putting it on top of you to keep nice and warm. And there is always, of course, the option you could join me in a seated meditation, coming back up to a seated position. So that wherever you are, choosing a position that feels comfortable so that you can completely release and relax your body and just nourish yourself fully before you move on now with the rest of your evening. So finishing the practice here, we have about 5 minutes left, 5 or 6 minutes left of this practice. So give that to yourself. So if you're seated, can you just soften your shoulders and just feel, whether you're lying down or seated, just the softening of your expression. And if you're lying down, you're going to feel the muscles in the back release. So there's a heaviness there. If you're seated, you're still engaging a little bit so that you're using the lower back to help lift you up. If you're lying down, feel your legs resting into the mat. Letting go of all effort in your thighs, calf muscles, feet. And if you're seated, just being aware of your feet and your sitting bones as it presses into the mat. So we feel that grounding energy supporting us underneath us. And Again, returning to that awareness that we started with when we came to the seat. Being aware of our physical bodies. Being aware of the noises around us. Being aware of our breath. And being aware of our thoughts. But with all of those things, we are not controlling any of them. So that our breath is coming and going on its own. Our thoughts are going to come and go. Our body feels relaxed and supported. And we're aware of our environment, but we're not focusing too much on sounds. So there's a feeling of being kind of at peace and ease. And from here we are at the hour for our practice. So if you wish to stay where you are and stay a little bit longer in your Shavasana and just come out of that in your own time, please do that. Otherwise, you're going to join me in making your way back to full awareness. So if you're lying down, just noticing your breath a bit more, taking control of your breath, so a deeper inhale, longer exhale. You're aware of your surroundings a bit more. You're aware of your physical being a bit more so that you can start to bring in some movement. Stretching, opening, and it's the same if you're seated. Just you could keep your eyes closed, just starting to bring a bit more awareness into where you are seated, so that we may all finish seated. So if you are lying down, you might want to make your way to one side and then to a seated position. And if you're seated already, just bringing the palms together in front of your heart and bowing your head to your hands so that we finish here together. Taking a moment to draw in some gratitude, and when the mind is quieter and we're in this nice peaceful state, it's a lot easier to feel grateful. What are you grateful for right now? Pull that in towards you. Connect with it. And of course, be grateful for yourself, for coming this evening and doing this practice. Nourishing yourself, looking after yourself, honoring your inner world, getting to know yourself a bit more. And when you're fully ready to return, just lifting your head and blinking your eyes back. Namaste. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that practice.